The sun glared down over the Texas sky, casting hard shadows across the dry, reddish earth and the shimmering blue surface of my ranch pool. I just stepped onto my shaded porch, sipping from a cold mason jar of iced tea, when I heard it splashing. Not the gentle, rhythmic laps I'd hear when I swam laps in the morning, but loud, careless splashing accompanied by an echo of laughter. Unfamiliar laughter. My boots hit the wooden steps in 3 quick beats. I knew every creak on this porch. I'd built it with my own hands, just like the pool, just like the smart gate that sealed off this part of the ranch. The gate was locked. It had to be. I'd upgraded to a smart lock with facial ID and remote notifications. No way anyone got past that without permission. But I was wrong. As I stepped around the corner, I froze. A young woman, maybe 20, was waist deep in the pool, flipping her wet hair back like she was in some kind of summer commercial. She had on a bright, almost blindingly colorful one-piece swimsuit that clung to her body like it had been painted on. Her phone rested on the pool's edge next to a plastic cup of soda. She noticed me, but didn't flinch. She just raised an eyebrow like I was the one out of place. Then came the shriek from beyond the fence. "Let my daughter out. This is kidnapping." I turned my head slowly toward the smart gate. Standing outside of it, gripping the metal with 2 fat, clenched fists, was a woman I'd unfortunately seen before. She was overweight, easily in her 40s, wearing a maroon blazer and matching skirt that clung to her like wet upholstery. Blonde bob heavily sprayed, and face flushed with rage. "Excuse me," I said, voice steady but rising. "What the hell are you two doing in my pool?" The girl rolled her eyes. "It's a hot day, and your gate said it was open." "It most definitely did not," I said, stepping closer. "You used something to override it, didn't you?" The HOA woman, the one I'd had brief, unpleasant encounters with at local meetings, shoved her face between the bars. "This isn't your personal kingdom, cowboy. This pool is community access under Section 4B. You think a fancy lock gives you special rights?" "It's on my land," I snapped. "My water. My maintenance. I built this pool 5 years ago before the HOA even existed." She slammed a palm against the metal, sending a jolt through the frame. "You're going to regret locking people out. That's illegal imprisonment." And just like that, the girl reached over, grabbed her phone, and dialed 911. "Hi, yes, I'm at the community pool on Elm Creek Ranch Road," she said, switching her voice to a trembling, victimized tone. "And this man, he locked me inside the pool area. I can't leave. I feel unsafe." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd seen entitled behavior before, but this? They were flipping reality on its head and expecting the world to side with them. "You're trespassing," I said calmly. "And you just admitted to it on a recorded line. You better hang up and leave before this gets worse." The girl glared. "You're going to jail." The HOA woman shouted through the gate again. "You're done, you smug little land baron." 10 minutes later, red and blue lights rolled down the dirt road. The sheriff's SUV kicked up a cloud of dust as it pulled up near the gate. I stood back with my arms folded, phone in hand, camera already rolling. Sheriff Matthews stepped out, already looking tired. I recognized that look. Not surprised, just annoyed. Like this wasn't the first time he'd been dragged into HOA theatrics. "What's going on?" he asked, voice low and steady. The young woman threw on a towel, ran to the gate like a rescued hostage. "He locked me in. I just wanted to swim, and he wouldn't let me out." "She broke in," I said, stepping forward. "That lock is mine. Private pool on private land. I have the deed, footage of her entry, and app logs that show remote lock control. She forced her way in." The HOA lady looked ready to explode. "She's a minor." "No," I said calmly, turning to Matthews. "She's not. She's 20. Also not your land. Also not your pool." Matthews rubbed his temples, then motioned to me. "Show me the footage." I walked him to my porch, pulled up the app, and played the video. Clear as day, the girl slid through the gate after punching something into her phone. She had no key, no access granted. Just walked right in. Unauthorized. "Looks like she hacked your lock," he said. "She's in a programming course," I replied. "Makes sense." Back at the gate, Matthew sighed, then turned toward the girl and her mother. "You're lucky this man isn't pressing charges." "He locked her in," the mother screeched. "No," Matthew snapped. "She locked herself in by sneaking onto private land. He didn't do a thing." She went pale. The daughter blinked like she was trying to understand the concept of consequences for the first time. "I'm going to document this," Matthews continued, "but it ends here. No arrest this time, but don't let it happen again." They left eventually. The mother tried to keep her posture proud, but she was sweating through her blazer, and her daughter looked like she'd bitten into a lemon. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. The next morning, I found a letter on my doorstep. An HOA citation for unauthorized structure blocking community access to shared amenities. Apparently, the SmartGate and lock now violated visual harmony and created a barrier of intimidation. They wanted it taken down within 7 days. I laughed, then frowned. This was war. The gossip started next. Whispered conversations at the local coffee shop. Side eyes from neighbors. One old man actually refused to wave at me for the first time in 5 years. They were poisoning the well, painting me as the rich, paranoid rancher keeping the community out. I tried to talk to a few neighbors, explained that the pool wasn't part of any shared space agreement, but they just nodded and smiled politely, too afraid of getting involved. It wasn't long before I noticed something else. The smart lock had been pinged again. I checked the logs. 2 failed access attempts. Then a third, this one more concerning. It wasn't a password fail. It was a force system reset attempt. Someone was trying to breach the system from the inside. The gate hadn't been opened, but someone had gotten close. I paced the edge of the pool that night, looking out at the moonlit water, the gentle splash of the filtration system the only sound. My dog rested at my feet, ears perked. They weren't going to stop. The mother had power. The daughter had tech skills. And they were both too entitled and too dumb to realize they were heading straight into a legal minefield. I knew one thing. I couldn't rely on polite warnings or recorded footage anymore. Not when they thought they had the upper hand. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them one. But not the kind they expected. Something smarter. Quiet. So I turned back toward the house and opened the app one more time. If they thought the smart lock was a problem before, just wait. And out beyond the gate, in the shadows past the oak trees, someone's phone screen blinked to life. A figure moved. They hadn't learned a damn thing. The next few days passed with a strange calm. Not peace, never peace, but the sort of eerie stillness that made your skin itch, like standing in the eye of a hurricane. My smart lock system stayed quiet. No failed logins, no sensor triggers. It was the first time in a week I didn't wake up to an alert in the middle of the night. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was winding up behind the scenes, waiting to strike. The envelope came on the 5th morning. No postage. Just left there on the front gate, taped like a message from a cartoon villain. Inside was a second HOA violation notice, hand-signed by none other than Marlene, the blazer-wrapped menace herself. I could practically smell her perfume on the page. The letter accused me of maliciously restricting shared amenities and warned of fines and potential court involvement. There was no HOA clause giving them any claim over my pool. I'd checked. I'd rechecked. And then I had my lawyer check. But Marlene was smart. Not honest, but smart. She knew that most people wouldn't bother challenging the HOA. They'd just roll over, pay the fines, make it go away. But not me. 2 days later, I got a warning from a neighbor. Rick, a retired mechanic who always wore the same oil-stained cap and smelled like barbecue charcoal, caught me at the feed store. "Hey, just a heads up," he muttered while loading bags into his truck. "Marlene's been talking to folks, telling them your pool's open to the neighborhood by old agreement, that you're hoarding it behind some high-tech fortress." I nodded. She didn't mention the part where her daughter broke in twice and tried to hack the system? Rick grinned. "That's not the version they're passing around." I stared down the gravel lot, past the dust-caked windshields and the tilted American flag swaying in the heat. So that was the play. If they couldn't win legally, they'd try it socially. Drag my name through the mud, sour every interaction, bury me in guilt until I gave in. Only problem? I don't guilt easy. That evening, I sat out by the pool again, but this time I wasn't relaxing. I was documenting. Taking photos, video footage, drone shots, all of it cataloged and time-stamped. I wanted a digital record of everything. Where the property line ended, where the sign stood, where the cameras faced. I even walked the fence, double-checking the posts. It was all in order, but I still added 2 new motion sensors and upgraded the firmware on the smart lock. I wasn't just locking a gate, I was drawing a line in stone. But lines mean nothing to people who think rules don't apply to them. The next breach came on a Monday afternoon, mid-heatwave. I was inside reviewing footage when my phone buzzed, motion detected at the west gate. I pulled up the live feed. And there she was. The same girl, hair in a messy bun this time, slipping through the bushes like she was auditioning for a spy movie. She had a towel over her arm and sunglasses balanced on her forehead. She punched something into her phone, walked straight up to the gate, and paused. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just trying her luck. She was trying to override the lock again. But this time, I was ready. The screen flashed red on my app, access denied. Then, another ping. Unauthorized device, attempted admin override. And then, recording in progress. I watched as she grew frustrated. Punched her phone again. Tried holding it up to the scanner. The gate didn't move. She let out a low curse and stepped back, hands on her hips. Then she took out what looked like a small toolkit. I nearly choked on my coffee. This girl had brought tools. My phone lit up with alerts. Tampering. Sensor interference. Gate vibration. My cameras adjusted automatically, zooming in and recording every move in crisp detail. It wasn't just trespassing now. This was attempted property sabotage. I slipped on my boots and headed out, but didn't approach. Not yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. That's when the gate buzzed. My override code had triggered silently, releasing the latch just enough to let the gate swing open an inch before relocking in fail-safe mode. She took the bait, pushed it open, and strolled in like she owned the place. I turned around, walked calmly back to the house, and called the sheriff. But before they arrived, something strange happened. She sat at the pool's edge, put her feet in, and took a selfie. Then she started a live stream. I clicked the audio feed. And this guy keeps locking me out of a pool that everyone should be allowed to use. Like, this is part of the community. He's just paranoid or something. She angled the phone toward the water. Look at this. Totally empty. Totally peaceful. He just wants to control everything. I blinked. She was live streaming a break-in while trying to make herself the victim. It was so absurd I didn't know whether to laugh or throw my phone across the room. 10 minutes later, Sheriff Matthews pulled up again. And again it was the same scene. Girl in swimsuit acting clueless, pretending she didn't know it wasn't allowed. But this time, the sheriff had the footage in real time. I showed him the tampering logs, the override attempt, the video of her taking out tools. He shook his head slowly, then turned to her. Miss, you're not just trespassing anymore. You're tampering with private security systems. That's a felony if I decide to press charges. The girl's face cracked. Her fake innocence melted, replaced with a flash of panic. I didn't break anything. But you tried, Matthews said. And we have it all. He let her off with a final warning, but his tone made it clear. One more incident, and handcuffs would follow. She left without a word, towel dragging in the dirt behind her. That night, I stayed up late. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating. They'd come after me legally. They'd tried to shame me socially. Now, they'd failed to breach my system. But the most dangerous people are the ones who don't learn from failure. And sure enough, the next morning, I found Marlene at the gate, standing outside with a clipboard in one hand and a pair of bolt cutters in the other. She didn't see me yet, so I watched, recorded. She rattled the gate once, read something from her paper, then raised the bolt cutters and clamped them around the chain. Except it wasn't a chain. It was a smart lock encased in reinforced steel. Her bolt cutters clanked against the metal, bounced back like she'd hit a pipe. She swore and tried again, harder this time. No effect. Finally, I stepped out from behind the porch post. "Hey there." She spun around, nearly dropped the cutters. "You know," I said, voice even, "tampering with a security device is a crime in Texas. Want me to call Matthews again? He might bring cuffs this time." Her mouth twisted into a sneer. "This will go to court. You won't win." "Funny," I said. "Neither will you." She turned without another word, stormed off, and left the bolt cutters sitting in the grass like a flag of surrender. I picked them up, held them for a second, and then hung them on the gate as a trophy. Later that afternoon, I sent everything to my lawyer. And that evening, I created something new. A decoy lock. It would look real. Flash green when tapped. Even make a soft clicking sound. But instead of opening the gate, it would silently trigger full security. Multiple cameras, high-res footage, and an alert to local authorities. It wasn't about keeping people out anymore. It was about catching them red-handed. And just like that, the next move belonged to them. I didn't have to wait long. That night, my system pinged again. Only this time, it wasn't just the daughter. There were two figures at the gate. One with a flashlight. The other holding a phone. And both about to walk straight into their own trap. The gate camera lit up again at exactly 10:43 p.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, vibrating softly against the wood. I rolled over, barely needing to check. I already knew who it was. But when I opened the live feed, my eyes narrowed. There weren't just 2 feet this time. There were 4. The daughter stood closer to the lock, dressed in a hoodie and shorts. Her hair pulled tight in a braid. Beside her was a taller figure, slightly heavier, moving with the same kind of entitled purpose. Marlene, her mother. The maroon blazer was gone, replaced by a dark zip-up jacket that didn't hide her size. She clutched a small crowbar in one hand, shining a flashlight at the gate with the other. They weren't sneaking anymore. They were hunting. I quietly slipped out of bed, pulled on jeans and a flannel shirt, and walked barefoot across the wooden floor toward the back office. No lights, no noise, just the soft creak of the door and the subtle hum of the backup monitor kicking on. The screen showed them standing at the fake smart lock, what I'd now nicknamed the trap. The decoy flickered green when the daughter tapped her phone against it. A pre-programmed sound emitted a dull click, like the gate had unlocked. Marlene tugged at it. The gate gave slightly, just enough to make them think it worked. I watched her glance around, then step inside first. The moment her foot hit the stone path, every sensor snapped on. Silently, covertly. Floodlights didn't flicker. Alarms didn't sound. But the full system engaged, multi-angle recording, audio pickup, facial recognition logging, timestamp overlays. They were on stage now, and they didn't even know the curtain had risen. I moved to the other camera, showing the pool. The daughter had already kicked off her sandals, dropping her towel on a deck chair like it was her backyard. She grinned, stretched her arms over her head, and jumped in feet first. The splash echoed through the night. Marlene stayed at the edge, pacing, muttering into her phone. That was my cue. I stepped outside, slow and deliberate, the wooden boards creaking just enough under my weight to announce my presence. The temperature had dropped, and the air smelled like wet dirt and chlorine. Marlene turned first. "You," she growled, her voice thick with frustration. "What kind of psychopath locks a public pool in the middle of summer?" I didn't reply. I just stood at the edge of the steps, arms folded, watching her like I was waiting for the punchline of a joke that hadn't landed. "You tricked the lock," I said finally. "And now you're trespassing. Again." Her daughter surfaced behind her, hair slicked back, water dripping from her chin. "This isn't trespassing," the girl shouted. "This is community access." "No," I said. "This is a private ranch. Owned, registered, surveyed, and deeded. With cameras. You were warned. Twice." Marlene's lips curled. "You won't get away with this. We've already contacted the authorities. I'll say you threatened her. That you're dangerous." "She's live again," I replied. "Streaming it all. Just like last time. Remember?" Her face faltered for half a second. And then, almost on cue, red and blue lights cut through the darkness. They weren't hers. I'd already called the sheriff. Matthews stepped out of his cruiser, hat low, expression unreadable. He didn't even look at me this time. He went straight to the pool. "What's going on, Marlene?" She was locked inside. Marlene barked. This lunatic trapped her behind some digital prison gate again. Matthews looked at the girl. "You walked in on your own." She couldn't get out. Marlene snapped. He turned toward me. "Let me guess, the decoy?" I nodded. "Hooked to motion-triggered cameras and timestamp logs." "I've got 3 camera feeds from 2 angles," I added, tapping the tablet I carried. "Want to see the break-in or the live stream of her saying this was community property?" Matthews exhaled heavily. "Marlene, you've already been warned. Your daughter's been warned. Tonight makes 3 times. This isn't a misunderstanding. It's deliberate." "No, it's not," she shouted, trembling now. "He's manipulating this whole thing. He changed the lock to trap her in again." Matthews walked back to his SUV, opened the door, and grabbed a folder. Inside it were the previous incident reports, all carefully stapled, all bearing her signature. Then he pulled out a citation pad. "I'm officially citing your daughter for trespassing, unlawful tampering with security equipment, and falsifying an emergency call. She's lucky we're not booking her right now." Marlene lunged forward, voice shrill and shaking. "You can't do this. You can't put this on her record." Matthews gave her a long look. "Ma'am, you're the one who brought her here. You're the one with a crowbar. You're the one walking into a trap with both eyes wide open." The girl climbed out of the pool slowly, as if just now realizing what was happening. Her eyes darted between me, the sheriff, and her mother. Then to the phone she'd left on the chair. The live stream was still going. Hundreds of comments poured in. Laughing emojis. "Busted." "Karen alert." "Instant karma." Her face turned pale. Matthews turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the girl. Then at Marlene, red-faced and breathing hard. Her hands now empty. The crowbar lying on the grass behind her like the evidence it was. "No," I said. "I want a restraining order. I want her name, her daughter's name, and this footage sent to your legal department. I want her off my property permanently." Matthews nodded. "Consider it done." He scribbled out the citation, then looked at Marlene one last time. "You might be on the HOA board, but you're not above the law." She didn't speak, just turned, picked up the wet towel, and walked toward the gate. I followed them both as they exited. The fake lock glowed green one more time, silent, mocking, still undefeated. As the cruiser pulled away, I turned back toward the pool. The water was still rippling, disturbed by her final splash. The moonlight caught every wave like silver snakes slithering through the surface. I walked to the fence, plucked the crowbar from the grass, and set it beside the bolt cutters still hanging from the post. A little shrine of bad decisions. The next morning, I sent the footage to my lawyer, along with the citation details and a formal request for legal action. The response from the HOA was silent for days. No letters. No visits. No Marlene. Until the neighborhood forum exploded. Someone had posted the girl's live stream clip, unedited, untouched, unfiltered. And then someone else posted my camera angle. The dual view told the full story. The comments came pouring in. "This is who's on our board. They broke in and lied. Can we recall her?" By the end of the week, Marlene resigned from the HOA board. Her daughter deleted every social media account. And my pool? Quiet. Undisturbed. Mine again. I sat out there a few nights later, cold drink in hand. Boots kicked up on the edge of the lounge chair. Dog curled at my feet. The air smelled like cedar and chlorine. I stared at the gate, now quiet, untouched, almost innocent looking. Then my phone buzzed. A new comment on the video. Legend. I smiled. Justice wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was just quiet enough to hear the sound of water and the absence of trespassers. And far down the road, headlights flickered once. A slow car. Paused. Watching. They hadn't learned yet. But the gate was ready. Ask CH.